Last season, we heard all sorts of stories of Liverpool as Jurgen Klopp's men struggled to keep pace with the likes of Man City and Manchester United in a bid to retain their first ever Premier League crown. Deprived of crowds and their best defender earlier on in that season, Jurgen Klopp's men struggled to put any sort of consistency into their displays, and it appeared that the Reds had already started to burn out. In the league's rich history, no team has ever won and then lost the Premier League title in this fashion. There was a time when their statistics made for grim reading of what was a poor campaign. They played 14 games out of which managed to just win 3 and lost 8. Not only that, they allowed 36 goals. There was a time when Jordan Henderson had not lost a league game at home since January 2017, and the club's captain then played in 3 defeats in 3 weeks of February. There were questions surrounding the managerial style, but Klopp decided to stay quiet. He's never been one of those men who'll burn it all down in order to preserve his own reputation. Managers tend to go down that road when things aren't working out, but the German tactician has too much integrity to bite the hand that feeds him. In a pandemic environment, Liverpool were always going to struggle to further strengthen a squad that's delivered Champions League and Premier League success. But then again, Liverpool are no Manchester City or Chelsea, whose owners are rarely ever short on cash. So Klopp stayed quiet and tried to make the best out of the resources that he had at his disposal. So what happened to Liverpool last season is not a great indicator of the team's overall ability. This season, Liverpool have started the campaign well and are playing with the panache that's befitting of a team that should be winning titles, breaking records, all the while playing football the way it should be. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel, hit the bell icon so that your notifications are turned on. The likes of Manchester City and Manchester United were making quite a lot of waves in the summer transfer window. First, City made a big money move for Aston Villa star Jack Grealish, and then Manchester United decided to sign Rafael Varane, Jadon Sancho, and then had enough finances to make a move for Cristiano Ronaldo. Liverpool, on the other hand, had a very quiet transfer window, only signing Ibrahima Konate from RB Leipzig. The young Frenchman arrived at Anfield as a player with great potential and someone who's going to help the club's defence stay goal-proof when Virgil van Dijk reaches a certain age. Throughout the summer, a lot of media outlets, including ourselves, talked about the likes of United, City and Chelsea fighting for the league title without even talking about the Reds. On the face of it, these 3 teams should be fighting for titles, but not at the expense of Liverpool, who have shown that an inactive transfer campaign doesn't consign a team to a mediocre season. As things stand, Liverpool are on top of the league standings with 14 points from 6 games. Not just that, Klopp's side are the only team in the league that hasn't lost a match so far. A 3-3 draw with Brentford was a highly entertaining encounter, and it'll set the tone for their next league game, which happens to be against the reigning champions Manchester City, who defeated Chelsea away from home. There are, of course, certain issues that Liverpool need to address, however. After dropping points against the newly promoted Brentford, there is one glaring issue that needs to be addressed. The Bees were brave in attack and forced the Liverpool defence into conceding 3 goals. You'll rarely see Klopp's side concede so many goals, that too against a team that's playing in the Premier League for the first time ever. The departure of Georginio Wijnaldum was a major blow. However, the presence of Harvey Elliott, Thiago Alcantara and Naby Keita was supposed to help the team overcome the Dutchman's departure. Unfortunately, all 3 of them are out injured, with Elliott unlikely to play at all this season after dislocating his ankle in the game against Leeds. The Reds were reportedly eager to sign Brighton player Yves Bissouma, who had a fantastic, amazing campaign with the Seagulls last time out. The 25-year-old is valued at £40 million and was rumoured to be eager to test himself in a different environment. The Reds, however, were unable to get their man. Reports claim that while they were able to reach an agreement with the player, Graham Potter's side were not too keen on lowering their demands. The Mali international is one of the best defensive midfielders in England and is comfortable on the ball. We're going to go out on a limb and say that Bissouma is as good as Wijnaldum and has the potential to become the engine of Liverpool's midfield for the next 5 years. Chances are that Liverpool will get their man in January, but the bigger issue still stands. Do the Reds have enough solidity at the back to make the move matter? Of course, when he arrives, Bissouma would take time to adapt. It's not easy for a player to fully integrate into a new team without pre-season, but the Malian will have to settle quickly. But before that, the Reds need to make sure that they're still in contention for league glory once the 25-year-old arrives. The likes of Mohamed Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold have always been the team's most creative players for a few years now. The English fullback had a rather quiet previous campaign, but has come alive this time around. Salah, meanwhile, has now scored 100 goals for Liverpool and has overtaken Roger Hunt as the quickest player to reach a century of goals for the Merseysiders. The manner in which the Egypt international has been going about his business indicates that by the time he leaves Anfield, he will have at least ensured himself as the 8th all-time leading goalscorer for the Reds, and that would be quite an achievement. In a match day that was filled with tons of surprises, Liverpool also dropped points. While Chelsea lost their place at the top of the league standings following a 1-0 defeat at the hands of City, and United lost at home to Aston Villa, it fell on Liverpool to defeat the Bees. However, Brentford are not your average newly promoted side. They play quite an expansive and entertaining brand of football, and their fearless approach is going to make things difficult for all the best teams in England. Had Liverpool won that game, they would have had a 3-point lead at the top of the table ahead of Man City. Therefore, the upcoming encounter against Pep Guardiola's men will be a test of this team's ability to win another league title. City have proven to be a tough team to break down, and they've only conceded 1 time in 6 outings. Liverpool, though, have already scored 15 goals and are not going to allow City to dictate terms on the pitch. But at the same time, XG standings also showcase how the campaign could pan out for both sides. Due to the amount of goals they've scored in these 6 games, Klopp's team has an overall XG of 15.94. But the Citizens aren't far behind, boasting an XG of 14.69 and an increase of 2.69 this week. Not just that, City's expected points have grown significantly to 15.17, which indicates that the reigning league champs will head into this game as favourites. This particular data point should be concerning for Klopp, since their midfield does seem patched up for now, and will be put to the task by Guardiola's men, who do tend to dominate possession and they're relentless when it comes to laying siege on the opposition goal. At the same time, Klopp's tactical setup will also be under a microscope. The German does like to see his team play a more open brand of football, but against City, the approach could go horribly wrong. Of course, the former Borussia Dortmund man hates to go for a conservative approach, but with the midfield options he's got at his disposal for now, the German tactician needs to do things differently this time around. Against Brentford, they conceded 3 goals because they got themselves sucked into a game that was becoming an end-to-end affair. Repeating that mistake against Man City could have calamitous repercussions. At the same time, Liverpool will need to make full use of the small amount of chances they will be given by the City defence. The Reds had chances to take all 3 points against Brentford, and on any other day they might have paid for that. Against City, they can't afford to repeat the same mistakes. Liverpool have done well for themselves in the first 6 games of the campaign, and while half a dozen games doesn't indicate where a team will finish at the end of the campaign, it does suggest a team's potential. The Merseyside Giants have all the potential to lift another league title come May 2022, but the onus is on Klopp to get his tactics right. Against a City side that rarely makes defensive mistakes, the Reds will have to be on top of their game, and they might be forced to play more conservatively than they're used to. However, if they manage to take something from the encounter, they will have outlined their title credentials.